Hello everyone. I am Satvika, a third year undergrad at NIT Jamshedpur. This pleasant evening feels so special that I get to welcome everyone to a very interesting talk which you are all curious about. Yes, we are back. A step has been taken towards the enhancement of digital learning of students with a very exciting concept which is useful to many students out there who are striving to learn, and that is Techie Talks, a congregation of live sessions with eminent personalities every Sunday on 30 plus different technologies. As the name suggests, the live talks comprise about the latest technologies to bring in awareness, enthusiasm among the students, thereby encouraging them to find their passion and explore further. I just can't wait to start the session. Do you know, have you ever been curious about the process of developing a website, designing it, and incorporating the content to impress people? What are the front end, back end, full stack, Web 2.0 and Web 3.0? How to host a website? Wondering where to start from as a beginner? Don't worry, to help you, we are here with our first session on web development to answer all of your questions. Today, we have one proficient person with us who made a lot of achievements in the field of web development. He is Shubham Raj, a fourth year undergraduate at IIIT Agartala, who is well experienced in shell scripting, Java backend development, and Flutter Android. He bagged an offer of 1.25 crore as an SDE at Amazon. He completed his internship as a software development engineer at Upstocks. He completed his Google Summer of Code internship and also did his Flutter application development internship at Sigma Tenant. Let me invite Mr. Shubham Raj onto the screen and instruct us with his insights without any delay.
Hi Satvika.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening,
Sir,
everyone.
it's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you
So
so
many
much.
students are waiting to hear from you about the web development. So, sir, can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Okay, so I'm a fourth year undergraduate at IIIT Agartala. I have done two internships, one in Google Summer of Code, one in Sigma Tenant, which was as an Android application developer in Flutter. And currently, I'm working as an SD intern in Upstocks. This offer I got through on-campus placements, and I have also got a full-time offer from Amazon Berlin, which was off-campus. I applied from the Amazon Jobs portal, and the job starts in September, 15th September. So that's a quick introduction about myself.
That's so amazing. It's an honor to have you with us. So, sir, how do you feel about choosing a path of a web developer and coming to such a point in your career? And why did you choose this career?
What I like about this field is that you can start from small projects. Initially, you develop small projects, which is simple, like a notes application or something which just stores the entries you just tasks, regular tasks which you perform. So simple websites you can develop using basic HTML, CSS, and also the backend using different technologies like Node.js, Spring Boot. These things are there. So I preferred Spring Boot because I heard that a lot of companies use Spring Boot in their backend. Currently, I'm working in Upstocks as an intern, and they're also using Spring Boot. Apart from this, Node.js is also being used widely, but still, I preferred Spring Boot because few of my seniors suggested it, and I did a lot of projects in it, and they were kind of individual projects. I didn't consult any online tutorials for it. I thought of it as on my own, like I will develop a application that converts PDF to images, and then I found a library which converts PDF to images, and then I developed the application on my own. So this was the way I got started, and then after I also worked on more advanced applications where I did my internship in Google Summer of Code and also currently in Upstocks. So this is the way I got started from small projects and then after going to the big ones.
That was so nice, sir. So I guess the session turned out more livelier after talking to you. I'm sure
Yeah.
that students will be learning a lot from you today. Okay, sir. Let's dive into more important informative part of the session. So,
Okay.
sir, many questions are waiting for you actually. So, shall we start,
Okay.
sir?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So here we go. So, what are the most important aspects of web development in one's career? Like, who who want to
Uh,
pursue web development?
There are different fields in web development. So first you have to sometimes you think that okay, I will work only on this part. Like I thought that I will only focus more on the backend part, not more on the front end part. Like I learned HTML, CSS, but not that much. And so this is important. Like if you have thought initially that okay, I'll be a full stack developer, so you have to focus on both the parts. But if you have initially thought that okay, I will only focus on the backend or the front end, this helps you uh, decide the way you want to go forward. And then after you can start with the small projects on that side. And you have to learn actually both the skills, little bit of, even if you have thought of doing back end development, little bit of front end you should learn, which will help you develop the applications. And same goes if you are looking for a front end job. So this is the way you go forward.
Okay. So, how would you describe the role of a web developer?
The role depends like what job profile you have got. If it's full stack, then you have to work on both front end and back end part of it. So it's like you need to know a lot more about what is expected from a fresher. Like freshers initially they work only on one side, like on the front end or the back end. So the role is more initially more focused on one part of the application. Like if you are working in Java, then you will only be working in Java backend applications. And then after slowly you develop yourself. And then after sometimes people also go to work as a full stack developer, or they develop more expertise in their own field, like full front end or back end development. So that's it. Yeah.
Okay. So, what programming languages have you learned and have been learning these days?
Like for DSA, I used C++ because DSA questions are a lot, what I believe they are a lot easy to solve using C++ and also Python. And Java, I don't prefer that much for DSA. Java, I prefer for development. Like I already said that a lot of my seniors, they advised that most of the companies, they use Java in their backend. And Amazon also, like when I was interviewing, I asked the interviewers about it. They told that Java is used for AWS backend, and also Node.js is also used, but not that much. And in Upstocks also, I found that Java was being used for more than 50% of the applications, and Node.js was also there. So Node.js and Java, these two are the basic frameworks that for Java it's actually Spring Boot. So these two are the basic frameworks that you need to develop. And for DSA, you can focus on C++.
Okay, sir. So, what do you think will be the biggest future trends in web development?
Uh, for future trends, like I cannot give a accurate prediction, but I see that Node.js will actually develop a lot because it has made developing a lot faster for some areas. But still, a lot of people they prefer Java because of some shortcomings that it has. But I believe that slowly this will be overcome, and we may see Node.js actually overtaking a lot of applications which are currently being developed in Java. So that's just a prediction. I'm not completely sure about it.
Okay, sir. So, can you tell us about your favorite project you have done till now?
The favorite project I have done, I would say it was the first kind of Spring Boot application that I developed, which was PDF to image conversion backend application. It was in microservice architecture. I developed multiple applications. One was for converting PDF to images, and the other application for converting the PDF to text, and then a central server which actually takes the request as a PDF file and whether it has to be converted as a text or an image. So what it did was I learned a lot from this project, like how the microservice architecture actually works, because all the organizations they actually use microservice architecture in their backend. So it was very helpful for me to get knowledge of how it works, and also how the control flows and how what things we should keep in mind while interacting with different servers, like the security, that it shouldn't be exposed to the internet. Some services they are private and some services they are public. So these things I learned from it. So that's why I think that that was the most that was the best project that I had.
Okay, sir. So, which tech stack or language has more demand with regards to a web developer?
Uh, like uh, Node.js and Java, like I already said, these two are most frequently used. Apart from that, a lot of people they also learn PHP and Ruby on Rails. But I would say that most of the startups and also the big tech companies, they actually majorly they use Java and Node.js only. And PHP, you can learn PHP and Ruby on Rails, but I think that learning Java and Node.js will be more helpful than learning those frameworks. I think these two frameworks they hold 90% of share in the market. What applications we have, so that's the two languages.
Okay, so what are the opportunities that a web developer can get in the present industry?
Uh, for opportunities, I would say that initially you have done some projects. Like for front end, I would say that if you have done projects that actually look good and which are not actually copied from somewhere else, and the front end actually looks nice and the UI UX is good. So when you apply somewhere, they actually look through your resume, and if you have mentioned the links to the websites that you have developed on your own, they will actually find that okay, these they will actually look through your website and see that okay, you have developed it on your own, so they will consider your application. And same goes for backend applications also. Like if you have developed complex applications on your own, so the people prefer that. So you can easily like if you have done projects on these, your resume will get shortlisted when you apply to big tech companies.
Okay, sir. So what's your take on competitive programming versus web development?
Like what I found that competitive programming initially it helps a lot. Like doing too much of it is certainly it's upon you, but doing a little doing it in a balanced way is important. Like it helps you understand the flow of control and the flow of logic, how you actually solve a problem. So competitive program is actually important. And from the hiring perspective, I would say that it is even more important because when I was giving my interview for Amazon, the I would say that 50% of the questions that I got were from DSA only, like the DSA questions and how I solved it. And then 40% were HR question, and only 10% questions were there on the projects which I did. So when it comes to companies like Amazon, Google, and Facebook, competitive programming actually becomes a lot more important. So I would say that if you want to get a job in Apple, Google, Facebook somewhere, so you need to focus on it. And development is also important. Like both will help you. You have to do it in a balanced way.
Okay, sir. So is there any project that you would suggest back-end development beginners so that they can learn most from it?
What I would suggest is uh, a basic microservice kind of architecture which performs any task. Like by any task, I mean that even simple translation, like you could use the Google API for translation, and you take an initial text and then send it to Google API, and it translates it, and you get the new response. And then after you send it to the client that you have, so you can develop it in a microservice architecture. Any simple task that you can perform in an application, you can develop that application which takes an input and gives you an output, and you can segregate different parts of it using microservice architecture. If this actually is not needed, because for performing a small task a single server is enough. But if you segregate small functions into different services, it will actually help you understand that how different services communicate with each other. So like any simple application that performs any task, you can develop.
Okay, sir. So according to you, like what is the scope of the career growth for a web developer in a well-established MNC versus in a startup?
For startup, I would say that the perspective is more because you get to work on projects from. Sometimes you get to work on projects from scratch, and sometimes you get to work on projects that are mm, like that need a lot of improvement. So when you work on that, you learn a lot from it. And also other tech companies like Google and Facebook, they also value it when you apply there. So you get to learn a lot from startups. So I would say that for web development, and particularly for front end, I would say uh, joining startups will help you learn more, but it is not the case every time. It depends uh, from case to case. Like sometimes it could happen that you got in a startup, and the application is like performing well, and then it will be just like working in a big tech company. And sometimes the opposite could also happen, that in a big tech company you are getting to work on a project from scratch. So it depends, but I would say in on a general case, uh, startups, they actually make you learn more.
That makes sense actually. So,
Yeah.
are there any kind of things that must be included in one's resume of like one web developer's resume so that they can stand out in an interview?
I would say that personal projects that don't look like they have been copied from somewhere, and like you, if you have uploaded the project on GitHub and you have been contributing it regularly, then in GitHub you could actually see the history of commits which have been made. So if there's a regular history of commits being made in GitHub, then that boosts your chances of being selected, because the GitHub profile, it actually shows how many days in a year you have been active. So that is one thing. And an internship is also important, like when you're in the final year, not for third year students, when you're in the final year, one, at least one internship, you, if you are done anywhere, it doesn't matter, then it helps a lot, because a lot of, if you haven't done an internship, then a lot of students will be there who would have done it, so your resume would not stand out. So these two things are most important, I would say.
Okay, so what exactly is the difference between working as a developer on our own project versus working in a company?
What I found that when I was working on my own, uh, I I had to Google stuff a lot. Like whenever a problem was not solved, I had to Google it online and find the answers on myself. But when working in a team, you have some senior developers who solve it quickly than what time you would take if you solve it on your own. So the development is a lot quicker. For small problems, you have a fix easily, you can easily communicate with the senior engineers and they solve it. And it is also the case that you get to learn a lot more when you're working on personal projects. So both have their pros and cons.
Thank you so much for your answers, sir. So I hope this
Thank
might have helped many learners to clear their curiosities. So okay,
you. Yeah.
viewers, now begins the Q&A round. It's your turn to ask. So let all your queries in the comment box. Yes, we can see that many questions has come up and our chart is burning up with their questions. So,
Okay.
sir, shall we start taking up their
Yeah,
questions?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we can start.
Okay, the first question, please. So, Keshav is asking what are the better resources or platforms you prefer to develop a website?
Uh, there's not a particular website which I would say, but like for Spring Boot, like I Most of my personal projects that I did involved Spring Boot library, and it also helped me a lot in getting my resume shortlisted and also in the current experience. So for that, I there was a website named baildung.com. I used it a lot, and whenever, like, it was not that I used it in particular, but whenever I googled something related to Spring Boot, I got search results which with Baildung on the top, and it had a very clear and concise explanation about every topic. So for Java, I would say for any library, it also Baildung.com also has resources for other libraries and frameworks in Java. So I would say that building.com was most useful. And specifically, when you actually Google stuff related to it, you will actually find websites on your own, and you go through different websites and you find that one is more helpful than other. So for every resources for Java, building.com is there, and some people may not find it that helpful. So it's different from technology to technology, and whatever technology you're using, it you have to Google accordingly, and you will find the resources.
Okay, sir. So the next question. So, sir, Suresh is asking, so what would you give the best suggestion for first year students in order to get a good job?
For first year students, actually, it depends on their background. Like when I was in first year, I had knowledge about C++ because in my course for 11th and 12th, we had C++ as as a subject. So we already knew about basics like linked list, stack queues, and basic coding in C++. So I straight away started using platforms like HackerRank and LeetCode to improve my DSA skills. So if it is the case that you have just started your coding journey, then it's not a problem. Actually, there's not a lot of difference. You initially have to learn these things, stack queues, linked list, and these things, how the control flows. And then l- initially, I would say that doing some DSA at the beginning will help you a lot and improving on it, because it helps you understand how code structure, actually how the code control flows. And after that, you can start working on small applications, like small, by small I mean like Android applications or web applications. With this will help you understand how software actually works and what things you have to keep in mind while developing any kind of software, because that is the end job that you will be doing. You will be developing software somewhere. So once you are clear with a little bit of DSA and coding in C++ and other languages, you can start working on small projects. So this is how it goes.
Okay, so the next question. So Manjit is asking how many internship we required to select in
Uh,
MS.
Yeah, number of internships, I don't think it matters that much. What matters more is the quality of internships. Like when if you have done from a company like Google, Microsoft, then it actually helps you a lot in getting shortlisted. And even if you haven't got an internship in these companies, you don't need to worry. If you do internships in other companies initially when you are in third year, like I did my first internship in Sigma, which was not a very renowned kind of company. So you work on these companies, and then after you gain some experience, and then after when you apply in third year, only at the end of third year, if you have done some small internships somewhere, then after you when you apply, your resume will get shortlisted. And when you're in fourth year, if you have a good internship at the end of your third year for the summer time between your third year and fourth year, then that will help you a lot. So for that, you have to start preparing from second year only. Like you have to focus on DSA also and also development part. These two will help you get an internship.
Sure, sir. So the next question. So Gayatri is asking how important is it to know about web security for a full stack developer?
Web security is actually very important. Like the more you know, the better it is, because encryption and these things are there. And even I don't have complete knowledge about these things right now. But if you have, then there's a separate domain like a cyber security expert. They hire separately for it to handle these security for different services which are there in any application. So I would say that security is very important, and the more you learn about it, it will be more helpful. And like you, it's a very advanced kind of field. First, you initially you need to learn about how microservices actually work and uh, how full stack development and web development actually works. And then after you can jump into the security part. If you don't understand how the web application is actually working, then you won't be able to know about the security part. So it's actually a little bit more advanced kind of topic.
Okay, sir. So the next question, Sushmita is asking how important are data structure algorithms to a web developer? Where do we use them in development?
Like you don't use data structure and algorithm particularly in development all the times. Like one case that I know for dynamic programming is MS Word. Like uh, when words, like when they actually separate the words in different lines to occupy a page, they actually use dynamic programming algorithm. So these cases actually come, but they don't come that frequently that you will be using any particular kind of dynamic programming or trees or graphs algorithm to complete it. But I said earlier, like if you have done data structure and algorithm, it will help you when you're coding. Like when you're writing the code, you will actually have a knowledge of how the control is actually flowing because of it. And also big MNCs, they actually ask for data structure and algorithm before you get a job. So even if you're applying for a backend developer position, you will expect DSA questions in your interview. So you have to prepare with DSA also.
Okay, so the next question. So Prasid Sai is asking, hello sir, from a person who just joined first year of BTech, can you please tell a roadmap to where you are now?
uh, what I did was I already said that I knew basics of C++ when I was in first year. So this helped me a lot. But even if let's take the case that I didn't knew it, it was not a problem. Like initially you learn C++ and any other programming language, do some basic DSA on it, and after that, when you are comfortable coding in that language, any kind of logic that you have in your mind, you are able to implement it in code. After that, you can start working on small projects. Like small, what I did was Android projects, Android applications. They are very very simple to make, and you get to learn a lot from them, like how software development is actually working. So this is what I did, and after working on Android applications, I was able to understand other software also because it was kind of connected everything. And after that, I started working on backend applications for web development and also contributed to open source. So this is how it goes actually. You start from small projects, and then after once you start contributing to big projects, then it becomes easy for you to get an internship. And uh, then if you have improved your DSA skills, then when you will get the call for interviews in big companies like I got in Amazon, then if you have your DSA skills brushed up, then you will be able to clear the interviews as well.
Okay, here we go for the next question. So Ajay is asking real life applications of MySQL and MongoDB.
Yeah, this is actually very common. Like every organization, they will be storing some kind of data and they will be using MySQL and MongoDB. Like I'm working on Upstocks in the onboarding team when user actually comes in and registers. So we use MySQL there. Whatever data the user enters, we store it in SQL databases for different users. And so like databases are very common. Whenever you are storing user data or any kind of other data, then you will be using these two technologies.
Okay, the next question. So had your CGPA contributed its role in your placement to be shortlisted?
My CGPA was not that good. I would say it's 7.57 currently, and but if it's like too low, then it will create a problem for you. Like what I think is that 7.57 is moderate. It's not good, but still not bad also. So if you have kept it above 8, there's actually no problem. Even if it's 8.1 or it's 9.6, it doesn't make a difference. Like it will be making a difference, but not a lot. And but if it's bad, like something 6.1 or 6.2, then also it will be making a difference. Like your some people, they will look at your resume and will see that okay, your CGPA is not that good, so they will actually make it a reason for rejecting your resume. So I think that CGPA, you should at least try to keep it moderate, not below moderate. Anything I would say below 7 is doesn't look good in your resume. So try to keep it above 7 at least. I'm saying for a good range, I would say keep it above 8, because on campus placements, a lot of companies, they come and they'll be keeping criteria for above 8. Like few companies I missed out in on campus placements because of this. But most of the company, I would say 90% of the companies, they were allowing above 7. And for below 7 some problem was there, because when I applied to Upstocks also, Upstocks came to my campus and they had 7 CGP as their cutoff. So below 7, I would say it will create a problem. You should try to keep it above 7 at least.
Okay, so the next question. Can we add ethical hacking certification in resume we have?
Yeah, you can surely add, like whatever things you're adding in your resume, you have to keep in mind what importance does it hold. If you have like the space is limited, you have only one page for your resume. People, they generally advise that only one page should be there for your resume. So if you have done 2 3 internships and then you have some open source contributions, so then in that case you do not have the space to add certifications. Like I also didn't have the space for certifications, because first I had to specify my internships, and then after I had to specify my projects, then after the skills, then after my institutions. So this occupied all the space. So if you have space left, then I would say certifications should be below projects and also below the internships. If you even I would say that after listing these two things, the internships and the projects, if space is left in the resume, then you can add certifications. They actually help.
Okay, so next question. Sadik is asking, can a engineer student learn stack development in order to make a website or app for his business in civil works?
Yeah, I would say that for civil work, you have to be a little bit more clear here, like which field you're trying to actually go. Because if you are trying to go to the civil works side, then you have to focus more on your curriculum because you're from the civil engineering department. But if you want to go for this full stack development, then you have to focus more on that and less on this civil works. You have to be clear about which direction you plan to go. So in that case, it will be helpful.
Okay, can you tell us the process of creating a website from scratch? This is
Yeah,
my question.
the process. What I would say is that different components is there. So you need to be aware of different components, like HTML is there, CSS is there, JavaScript is there, and also frameworks are there. Angular and React, these help you a lot in developing good looking websites. But if you don't know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then learning Angular is of no use, because they at the end they also use these three technologies also only. So initially you have to work on these three things, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you have to develop small websites on your own. This way you'll actually be able to understand how these three actually work, and then after you can use the advanced frameworks. At the end you have to use the frameworks, because frameworks, they help you develop large, when you're developing large front end websites, you have to use frameworks. You cannot develop the entire code on your own. So I would say that initially learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then after using the um, libraries like Angular and React. This is the proper way.
Okay, so next question. So Nitin is asking, web development or Android development or machine learning, which one should we do in second year towards development?
It depends on you. Like for web development and Android development, I would say there's not a lot of difference. But you have, if you are going for machine learning, then it's completely different. Like I haven't done it, so I cannot give you a lot of advice in that. But what I know is that you have to read a lot of papers of different algorithms, and you have to develop projects on your own, and you get the success rate, and some numbers are there. Accuracy, yeah, accuracy uh, is the measure of a machine learning model, that how accurate it actually is. So you have to develop machine learning models on your own, and you participate in hackathons. While participating in hackathons, you'll get the same data. Different teams will get the same data, and they develop their own machine learning code, and after that different teams have different accuracy. The one having the highest accuracy, they win. So this way you get to learn a lot. So for machine learning, it's a little bit more different, and for web development and Android, I would say it's more or less the same. Like it doesn't make a lot of difference between them.
Okay, so what is Web 2.0, Web 3.0, and how are they different from front end and back end?
I don't have this knowledge. I knew this few months back, but I forgot it. But what I know is that currently we are using Web 3.0, and it actually renders websites in your browser and JavaScript and these things. It's actually more advanced kind of web where we can open applications in our browser itself. Some applications which were initially they were not like the applications were not kind of that they would open in the browser. But now like Zoom, Google Meet, these applications which are there, these are more advanced kind of web applications. But this were not supported in Web 2.2, and Web 1.2 was very simple kind of like it was only basic HTML static pages that you saw. So this is the kind of development like Web 2.2 was focused more on development of UI, and Web 3.0 is like you have complete web applications with their own logic running in the front end.
Okay, so can one go for learning backend without learning front end?
You have to learn a little bit of front end. You when you are learning backend, it's actually that sometimes you'll get to face a little bit of problems which have a little bit of front end involved in it. So not a lot of front end, but a little bit of front end. Like I would say, a few weeks if you give and few small projects if you do very small kind of projects, then that will be helpful, and it's also needed. Like if you are a backend developer, sometimes you are expected to know a little bit about front end, so it's not a lot, but just a little bit of front end it should be done.
Okay, sir. So can you tell us like what exactly are the prerequisites to go for learning backend or front end development?
For prerequisites, I would say little bit of DSA, I would say, and proficiency in developing small applications. Like for Android applications, if you are developing, it will help you understand the control flow in a software, how it actually works. So working with small software before writing your own applications, from tutorials, from you like you watch tutorials and you write code, watching them how they are doing it. This will help you learn, and then after you can write your own applications. So this is the proper way of doing it.
Okay, so the next question on the screen: how to crack GSOC, sir?
Yeah, GShock, Google Summer of Code. So for GShock, I would say that initially you have to give up this mindset that I want to do GShock. Like I was also like this before. Initially, what you have to do is you have to focus on development and contributing to open source. You go to the GShock website, find the organization that you're comfortable in working with. Like different organizations, they have different projects. And suppose if you have your skill in Android, like I had my skill in Java and Android, so I listed out all the organizations that have projects in Android and Java. And then after I went through their projects, and what initially my target was is that I only have to read the projects, understand the code, and make any possible changes that I could make in their application to correct small bugs and also find bugs if I could. So what I did was I cloned all the repositories, and if some projects I was not able to understand, like I remember Mozilla Firefox was there, and I was not able to understand the code of Mozilla Firefox at all, and I was also not able to compile it. But when I went to ODK, I found a Android application and a Java Spring Boot application there, and as I was working with these two technologies, I was able to understand the code and also make changes to it. So I would say that initially you have to focus on development, and then after going through the code base of the organization, and then after contributing to the organization, these three steps initially are very important. Once you have done this contribution part, then after working on proposal is very important. You write the proposal on your own, and then after, like I would say, the most difficult part is contributing. Once you've done the contributing, then after proposal will also be like you take help from previous GShock students. They will help you, and then after you prepare the proposal, and then after you apply, and then after if you have done it properly, then you'll get selected.
Okay, so next question: what exactly is frameworks?
Frameworks. Frameworks, I would say, is that already written code to write some kind of applications. Like Android framework is there, which helps you write Android applications in a very quick manner. What it does is a lot of basic boilerplate code is already written, and you simply have to write down some logic to configure the parts of the application like the title bar, and then after for list view, you simply use uh, an already made class which has the implementation for a list view in Android. So what frameworks is that already written code which helps you write applications in a quick way.
Okay, so next question. Okay, which language we have to learn before learning front end development? So,
Uh, for front end JavaScript, I would say 90% is JavaScript, and the rest is HTML and CSS. HTML is not actually a language, but still it's a different kind of technology on its own. So HTML and JavaScript, these two are very important. And without these two for front end development, I don't think that you'll be able to progress forward. So these two are very important.
okay, so next question. How much competitive programming is necessary for development?
Necessary. Yeah. So competitive programming, what I did was focus more on interview kind of questions. I used lead code, and a lot of questions in your interview, you'll find that it's actually from lead code. And in my Amazon interview also, I found 50% of the questions, they were modification of lead code questions. So for competitive programmer, I would say that 6 months is enough if you give it time like 5 to 6 hours a day, not rigorously, like sometimes you can skip, but 5 to 6 months if you do it in proper manner, that will be enough. And that will, like, if you do revision properly, then you will be able to crack most of the interviews and also the coding round.
Okay, so next question. Something for fourth semester students.
Fourth semester, so fourth semester is actually uh, end of second year, I would say, like before going to third year. So if you have done some projects on your own and you know about some technologies like Android or web development, these two fields, if you have done projects on it, then I will suggest you to find internships, because you will be having summer break of 2 3 months, and in these 2 3 months you can find internships somewhere, and that will really help you after after in third year when you look for internships during the next summer break.
Okay, so next question, please. What are your opinions on code development program platforms?
No code development platform, actually I'm not able to understand. So what no code development platform is actually.
Okay, so next question, please. Can a mechanical student get into software?
Yeah, it's very simple. You have to do projects on your own. Like it's not in your curriculum, so you will have to give time separately, and then after just learn DSA and projects. These two things, if you have done, then it's enough. Like these two are the only things which companies look for. You have done personal projects and you are comfortable with DSA. You can solve medium level questions in lead code. These two things, if you have done, then you will get a job if anywhere. Like if when you apply and you have a proper resume made up.
Okay, so next question. Here we go. What exactly do the front end developer do in top MNC? Do they write HTML or CSS?
Like HTML, CSS is always there, like no matter which company you're working for. But they also use frameworks like React and Angular, and different companies, they have their own frameworks sometimes. So like what they do basically for front end engineers, I would say that using these libraries is the main thing. And then after, when small changes are needed, they apply HTML and CSS code accordingly to those front end applications to make it in a desired format.
Okay, so how to make a website the most efficient one?
Okay. So by most efficient, uh, two, three things are there. One is good looking front end. So for good looking front end, you have to use like basic, only using HTML and CSS won't work. So you have to use things like Angular and React. After you have knowledge of HTML and CSS, you can use them, and that will make your front end look good. And for back end, I would say that code redundancy should not be there. So like develop it in a microservice architecture if it's a lot of code. If it's a small application doing a small task, then you can write down a single application which does it, and just make sure that it's quick, like the whatever logic you have written, it doesn't take a lot of time. So because of that, the front end is easily able to interact with it. So these two things, if it's there, then it will be a smooth and efficient website.
Okay, sir. So can you suggest any like platforms or resources or any development tools that you used?
The most used development tool by me will be IntelliJ for Java. It helped me write code very quickly for uh, Spring Boot applications, and for Android, of course, you have to use Android Studio, and you can also use IntelliJ, but mostly people use Android Studio only. So Android Studio and IntelliJ, these two were the most used technologies. Apart from that, GitHub also you have to use. Initially, you will have to learn a lot about how Git actually works, like pushing, pulling, and committing any code. But it will help you later on when you develop applications on your own.
Okay. So the next question on the screen. Can you tell us about the role of React.js for the front-end developer, and can you tell which one is better for front-end and back-end?
Uh, which one is better for front end, back end? That part I am not able to understand. But React.js for front end is very important. Like most of the organizations, they use React.js. What I know is Instagram, Facebook, these two are also using React.js for a lot of their web pages. And other websites like Upstocks also, I know they are using React.js in a lot of places in their website. So any of the big organization that you go for will be using React and Angular. So learning any of these two will be helpful. And yeah, that's it.
Okay. Next question. Is it good to prefer job in India or go for masters?
Like it depends, like what kind of job you're actually getting. If you find that you have a lot of potential, then what job you are currently getting, like you are able to get a job in a mass recruiter, and you think that you actually know a lot compared to other students, and you have the knowledge required to work in big tech companies, then you can go for masters. And if you have got a job which helps you apply your knowledge in software development, and also fulfills all other requirements that you have, like some people, they value salary and different things are there. So if you get the desired job, then it's okay. If you feel that like you can get a lot better than what you have, then you should go for masters.
Okay, sir. So Rahina is asking learning a tech stack and doing a project in that tech stack, or choosing a project and learning the tech stack for that project, which is better.
Yeah. Uh, I would say that choosing a project and learning a tech stack is better, but it depends on person to person. But I would say that choosing a project one is better, because when you choose a project, you are actually able to see how advanced that project actually is. Like if it's a very simple kind of project, you would find that okay, it's very simple, so I do not need to actually work on it. I can work on more advanced and complex kind of applications. So you find a complex kind of application, and then when you learn the tech stack, it's not just that if like it's a Java application, the knowledge that you get will only be applicable to Java applications. You will get a lot of other knowledge which will be applicable on a whole. Like even if you have learned in Java, and then after you're writing code in Node.js, then still it will be applicable. So going for good projects is actually, I think, more important.
Okay, so what is that X factor that helps a web developer like in while doing in an interview or something like that? Is there any X factor?
One X factor which I could think of is getting a good resume and developing websites on your own. Like when you develop the websites on your own, like very simple projects and websites that you have developed, and if it looks like it hasn't been copied from somewhere else. So when people, they actually go through your resume and go through the links, they view the links, and when they find it that actually these websites have been completely developed by you, and they look good, they have a good front end, and the backend portion is also developed in a good architecture, then that helps a lot. So developing the applications on your own and which looks good and works well, these things I would think will
So Can you check your camera once? I feel like it's stuck. We are due to some technical issues, sir is left. So I hope you have learned something through this session. And that's it for the evening. If you are excited, hit an exclamatory, and if you are expecting more, have a comma. But definitely, this would not be a full stop. So many such sessions are coming up. Until then, stay tuned. This is Satvika signing off. Thank you.